all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We're your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie.
And each week, we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird.
Welcome, Weirdos, back to the History for Weirdos podcast, episode 59.
We're back.
We're back, baby. And I know it's already been a few days into October, and if you haven't been welcomed into spooky season yet, I would love to be the first person to do so.
Yay! Welcome to spooky season.
Yes.
I beat you to it.
You beat me to... You
didn't get to say it. I was the first person to welcome you to spooky season.
I mean, I kind of just said it, but... It was like implied.
But I officially said it.
Not to be petty or anything. Well, and the reason why I'm saying this is because the next few episodes, in honor of Halloween coming up later this month, we're going to have just a spookier kind of vibe in these next few episodes. Yeah. So just to forewarn you all.
Yeah, we're going to try to incorporate some spooky themes, and that could look like a bunch of different things. You will see. You will see. We're
just going to keep you in suspense.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that.
Okay. Well, enough of my rambling. Stephanie, it is your turn this week. What are you going to regale us with?
I am going to share a bit of Los Angeles history.
Oh, nice.
And we are going to be discussing the Greystone Mansion mysterious deaths.
Oh. Okay, yeah, we're coming out of the gate swinging here, huh?
Yes, definitely. Before I get started on this story, there's just a quick content warning. There is death by suicide mentioned a couple times, or quite a few times in this episode. If that's something you don't want to listen to, please feel free to skip this one. It's nothing graphic by any means, but that is a topic that is discussed.
Always the therapist.
Always can't turn it off.
You really can. I appreciate that, though.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Oh.
So, for those who may not be familiar... Greystone Mansion is a pretty, I'd say iconic spot in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's in Beverly Hills. Lots of folks go there for, I feel like the thing that comes up when I think of Greystone Mansion is actually engagement photos.
Right, yeah. That's a huge thing there.
A lot of people take their engagement photos there on the grounds. It's very beautiful, looks very European.
Palace-like, yeah. Versailles-like.
Exactly.
Maybe a little toned down. Only slightly, though.
It's also known as Doheny Mansion.
Yes.
It is a Tudor revival mansion on an estate that has distinctive English gardens. So like I said, pretty European in the vibe. And it's located in the Truesdale Estates area of Beverly Hills.
Oh, that's a lot. If you're familiar with the University of Southern California, that's a lot of USC terminology right there.
Yes, and that comes up later.
Ah, excellent.
So it's a 55-room, 46,000 square foot on 16 acres of land.
Oh my god. Guys, this is in Beverly Hills, which is not known for wide open spaces necessarily.
Yeah. It's very city-like.
Yeah.
When it was built, it cost over $4 million, and today that would be $63 million.
Surprisingly, actually pretty cheap. Which, I mean, again, $63 million is an absurd amount of money, but probably today it would take hundreds of millions to build that.
Very true, but at the time it was actually the most expensive home in California.
I can see that.
Yeah. Today, the historic Doheny Greystone estate is owned by the city of Beverly Hills, and it's operated through their Parks and Rec department.
Oh, okay.
So that's why folks can go there to like tour, to picnic, to take pictures. And the house and the grounds are often used as locations for film and TV shows. Some movies that it's been in that I thought our weirdos would recognize are The Big Lebowski. It's in The Big Lebowski. Death Becomes Her. The Bodyguard. The Holiday, which is like the cutest holiday rom-com movie. And National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Oh, heck yes. I remember that. Of course, like the most like absurd one is the one that I like vibe with the most.
Yes. So
Except Big Lebowski. That one is actually pretty tight.
And it's weird.
Yeah.
I wanted to just share some of the background of the mansion so you kind of get an idea of what it's like today before getting into the history here. So even before we can get to these mysterious deaths, I'm going to talk about where the Doheny Mansion gets its name from, and this is Edward L. Doheny Sr. We have to learn a little bit about him to put into context what will happen.
Yes, okay.
So, let's see. Edward L. Doheny Sr., obviously there's going to be a junior eventually, was born on August 10th in 1856.
Okay, way back in the day.
And he was born in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He's also a Leo if his birthday's August 10th, which like makes total sense because he slaps his name on everything that he builds. They really like stardom.
Oh my god.
He was the son of working class Irish Catholic immigrants. His parents were Patrick and Eleanor Doheny, and they fled Ireland during the Great Famine. So prior to making, I was trying to write the big bucks in my notes.
Yeah.
But I wrote the big bugs.
The big bugs.
Prior to making the big bugs.
That sounds like, you know what? That's like a science fiction horror movie right there. The big bugs.
The big bugs.
Because someone was like, I want to make the big bucks. And they're like, the scientist is like, oh, he meant big bugs. Okay, we got you.
There you go.
And then like humanity dies out because of big bugs.
Oh my god, that escalated so quickly. Well, prior to making the big bucks...
Okay, back to our story.
Yes, Edward Doheny worked as a miner, a prospector, a driller. All of those, this like search for riches is what brought him to California from Wisconsin. And he was married to Miss Carrie Luella Wilkins. But very sadly, Edward Doheny and Carrie had a really tough marriage due to their low income, very like insecure income, right? If you're like a prospector, that's not a very consistent income. And eventually their 7-year-old daughter, Eileen, passed away as the result of a fever she had when she was younger. And only about a year after their little girl passed, their son was born, their only son, Edward Doheny Jr. That's where the junior comes in. And he will be referred to from now on as Ned or Doheny Jr.
Okay.
So while living in Los Angeles, Edward Doheny Sr. just happened to discover oil.
Yeah, I remember this.
In 1892, near the La Brea Tar Pits, which is another very iconic spot in LA with these like really creepy mammoth statues that are terrifying. Don't go.
Yeah. Well, it's because they found like mammoth skeletons or preserved mammoth, and other are like dinosaurs, I think, even.
The mammoth statues are really creepy.
Yeah, they have like, what she's referring to is like they have like lifelike statues of dinosaurs and mammoths there, and it like literally like terrifies Stephanie. It's kind of funny.
It's so not funny.
It's funny to me, but probably terrifying to you. Well, definitely terrifying to you.
I love the LACMA, the museum that's right there. It's right next to the tar pits. I hate the tar pits. So it's such a hassle every time I want to go to the LACMA.
And the tar pits are like there's like a museum within the tar pits. It's actually quite cool, but we never went because you got scared.
I'm just freaking out even thinking about it. Okay.
I bet the listeners are like, wow, what a weirdo.
There you go. That's the point.
There we go, yeah. It all comes back.
Mm-hmm. So Edward Doheny, he obviously made money from this oil discovery, but it was initially funded, like his prospecting by his friend Charles Canfield. So they were business partners moving forward. They made a ton of money together.
Nice.
And then after they had success in LA, Doheny moved his oil efforts to Tampico, Tamaulipas, Mexico in the early 1920s. And that made him one of the richest men in the United States.
Oh my gosh.
Like very quickly.
Nice. So he went from like kind of like almost abject poverty to like being one of the richest men in the world, or in the United States at least.
Yep, very quickly in a very short amount of time.
Good times.
Edward and Carrie divorced prior to this though in 1899, and for some reason I couldn't find why Edward took primary custody of Ned.
Oh, interesting.
Who was 6 years old. Unfortunately, this is the first mention of death by suicide. After this, his wife, Carrie, actually dies by suicide.
Oh, no.
And then Doheny, makes it even weirder. He marries his second wife, Carrie.
Oh, God.
In August of 1900. Like 1 year apart, he marries another Carrie, but they call her Estelle. Estelle Betzold. So Carrie / Estelle never had biological kids of her own, but apparently she did raise Ned as her own, and they had a good relationship.
Oh, that's nice.
So fast forward a bit to 1922, Edward Doheny sent his son Ned and Ned's chauffeur, Hugh Plunkett, to make a gift of $100,000 to the Secretary of the Interior, who at the time was Albert Fall. Let me just say something really quick about Hugh Plunkett. In addition to being the chauffeur, he was actually Ned's childhood friend, like his best friend in the whole world. And he was well known to be Ned's closest confidant. He would even sign checks for him. Like, that's how much he trusted him.
Oh, wow.
So, but after Doheny Jr. and Plunkett make this gift to Albert Fall, Doheny Sr. happens to get access to a lease of 32,000 acres of government-owned land used for the Elk Hills Naval Petroleum Reserve in Taft, California. So he gives this...
Oh, so it's like bribery, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a gift.
Yeah, it's like, hey, wink, wink.
Yeah, here, just for my friend, $100,000.
Just for funsies.
Oh, cool, thanks for giving me this contract so I can make more money.
Yeah, and $100,000, like literally 100 years ago, is
Yeah.
worth a lot more than $100,000 now, which is still worth, quite a bit of money.
Exactly. So, actually, not too long after this bribe came out in public in connection with similar bribes that Fall had received for leasing Teapot Dome in Wyoming.
Yeah, and that was like a nationwide scandal.
Yep. Thus, Doheny's name became tainted with the infamous Teapot Dome scandal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk really briefly about it. In essence, the Teapot Dome scandal was a bribery scandal involving the administration of the United States under President Warren G. Harding. Because this dude Fall kept leasing these petroleum reserves to private oil companies at really low rates without any competitive bidding.
Oh, yeah, that's so wrong.
Yes. Convicted of accepting bribes from oil companies, Fall became the first presidential cabinet member to go to prison.
Whoa.
No one was ever convicted for paying the bribes.
Yeah, because they had really good lawyers, that's why.
Mm-hmm. So before Watergate, Teapot Dome was regarded as, quote, the greatest and most sensational scandal in the history of American politics.
Which is, like, insane because, like, I feel like modern politicians, like, do shit like this all the time. Like, it's just an average day in Washington.
I was reading this and I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah, like, that's just normal politics today, which is in a way sad because it's like, it shouldn't be.
It should not be, but the people of the United States were really disheartened by this. The people of the United States today, we're super freaking jaded and traumatized, so this is, like, kind of cute to us.
I know,
what I
right?
mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, I know, like, at one point, relatively recently, like, federal guns got to, like, Mexican cartels.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Yeah, and you say that, and I'm just like, yeah, of course.
Of course it did, yeah.
So, but at the time, going back to the story a little bit,
yeah,
this was, like, a big deal, and it was really impacting Doheny's reputation, right? So just keep that in mind. But before any of this was even going down, Ned / Doheny Jr. had decided that it was time to build his dream house for himself, his wife Lucy, and their 5 children.
Bruh, come on, get off of her, man.
5 kids. That's quite a bit.
That's a lot, yeah.
So the Dohenys picked a large piece of land on a hillside in Beverly Hills and hired architect Gordon Kaufman to design the mansion. And then they got to travel all over Europe to reach out to artisans and craftsmen and antique dealers to help them design and furnish the interior of the home.
Wow.
So this was very fancy. Very fancy. After several years, it said that the mansion probably cost $5 million, which is over $86 million today.
Okay.
That's nuts.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Greystone was finished, and it was the largest home in Los Angeles. It became known as Greystone for its copious use of stone construction, giving it that like grayish, somber, kind of like Tudor castle look.
Yeah, it does have that look.
It looks spooky in and of itself, even if nothing tragic ever happened there. Like, you would look at it and it's a little spooky.
But something tragic will happen.
Exactly. That's why we're here. So, on the night of February 16th, 1929, 5 months after the family moved into the mansion, Ned Doheny and Hugh Plunkett were found dead in the home.
Whoa.
Both were shot in the head, and Ned Doheny was about 35 years old. The 2 men were found in a guest bedroom in the east wing of the home. Ned was discovered actually like inside the bedroom near, like in between a desk and the bed. Mm-hmm. And Hugh was found like in the doorway / hallway portion of that bedroom. Mm-hmm. I believe it was just a little hard to tell because some reports were different, but it sounds like Ned's wife and their family physician found the 2 deceased. Okay. Apparently, this was consistent. Ned's wife heard a gunshot. She was in the house. She heard a gunshot and she called the family doctor instead of the police, which is why the doctor came over. But by the time the doctor came over, there had been a second gunshot and it was too late.
Okay, so she pulled the trigger. Yeah.
You jumped to that conclusion so quickly.
Yeah. If I lived in a mansion, we have a 2-bedroom apartment. It's a little bit different scenario. But even if I lived in a mansion, I heard a gunshot and and it wasn't me and I had no idea, 911 immediately.
She even said she didn't even know that Hugh was in the house. He had his own key and everything. So she was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was here."
That's such a weird,
Very strange, right?
Very strange, yeah.
So obviously, this story was front page news. These 2 were like Los Angeles, California royalty.
Yeah.
And was nationwide news, not just LA and California. The front page of the Los Angeles Examiner read in this giant bold font, "Doheny Jr. murdered!" exclamation.
Murdered!
You can look that up, and you can see kind of like the front page initial coverage of it.
Nice.
So understandably, the public was shocked and was expecting we're going to get answers as to what happened. These are like super rich people.
Right.
A man by the name of Burren Fitz was recently elected the district attorney, and he had made a public statement promising a full investigation, that they would catch, whoever did this.
Right.
But there never was an investigation.
Oh my god. Okay, there is some conspiracy. 100%.
If you look back at the newspapers of the time, especially the LA-based papers, there's an initial frenzy about this story. Everyone's talking about it.
Right.
And then suddenly all the papers cease reporting and it's never addressed again.
That's so weird.
The only narrative that circulated, and I think I did see a newspaper clipping kind of pushing this narrative, was that Hugh Plunkett, quote unquote, went mad and killed Ned and then himself.
A likely story.
Mm-hmm. It looks like Doheny Sr. obviously silenced the newspapers and for whatever reason didn't want this tragedy looked into any further. That could be I'm so bereaved. I don't want to see this like in the newspapers everywhere, and people
that I get,
providing misinformation, or it could be, there's this big secret I don't want anyone to figure out.
Right. That I also get.
Mm-hmm. So it turns out that Plunkett was actually due to testify in court on one of these ongoing bribery investigations. Mm-hmm. So many speculate that the deaths were related to that growing pressure he was facing. This makes sense because while Ned and Doheny Sr. would likely never face prison time, like no one else did in these bribery scandals, Plunkett was not as protected, right? He didn't come from money. Obviously, he's very close with the family, but he's a chauffeur. So I don't think he doesn't get like that clout of being the elite. Mm-hmm. Just need to say it. I don't think that's right. I don't want anyone thinking that I thought that was like correct to do that. But I think that's exactly what it was like.
That's just reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this would fit that public-ish story of like a murder-suicide situation. Mm-hmm. However, there are some details about the crime scene that make this theory feel a bit off. One being that there was an initial, detective on the scene. I think his last name was White. And he found powder burns on the hole that went through, Ned's head.
Yeah.
And that when he talked to like the Emmy, that typically only happened at the time if the gun was 3 inches or less away from the head.
Right.
When it's fired. And that is more typically found in death by suicide cases. But so that doesn't track with like Hugh killing him.
Right.
Secondly, Plunkett's body was actually found with like a cigarette still kind of burning.
Interesting. So like it clearly wasn't like you're not typically.
Yeah, it's just that like you don't murder your best friend and then take a smoke break before shooting yourself.
Right.
Maybe.
Right, and especially like in the middle of like
in
a
the
cigarette,
middle of everything.
You would probably
and knowing that the house is full of people.
Right.
So that's odd. Additionally, you already touched on this, but I think the wife's decision to call the family doctor and then just like kind of wait around is odd. There could be reasons for this, but I really couldn't think of anything. I would call the police as well. And then the police were actually not even called until over 3 hours.
Wow.
After they had discovered the bodies. Why would you wait that long?
Because you're trying to hide something.
Yeah, because you're trying to hide something.
Like, and I'm not saying if it's the wife or like I don't know. Like, there's something.
Yeah.
Also, the body placements are weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
So since the crime was suddenly MIA from like all public papers and news and was never actually officially solved, people have come up, of course, with several theories.
Right.
One theory about these crimes is that Ned and Hugh were in a romantic relationship.
I can see that.
They got in an argument and it ended tragically with one killing the other and then themselves. Or that they were in a romantic relationship and the wife found them together and she killed them and the doctor helped her stage the bodies and that's why it took so long to call the cops. Another theory is that Hugh came over and he had been freaking out about the upcoming trial and then he must have said something that scared or like threatened Ned somehow and that Ned actually shot and killed Hugh. And then his wife calls the doctor for help because they're not sure if he's dead. But he is dead and Ned is overcome with guilt and shoots himself.
That one seems the most plausible given everything.
That one seems really likely, right?
Yeah, that one's interesting.
But as frustrating as it is, we probably will never know what actually happened that night inside the Greystone Mansion because it was just very quickly covered up. That detective I was reading more in depth was just told like, no, it's done. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
That's really weird. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if any of the listeners, if you can time travel and become like a fly on the wall, let us know what happens.
Yeah. And if you can time travel and become a fly on the wall, like, we have so many requests.
So many requests. Like, you know, especially when you go back to 44 BC.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Just kidding, guys. No, I'm not even going to go into that more. If you know, you know.
So, afterwards, Edward Doheny, regardless of whether or not he was hiding something,
Right.
appears to have been deeply affected by both, like, the scandal surrounding his integrity. He ended up selling a ton of his shares of his oil company, and the loss of his son. It's a sad reminder, but I want to remind us that this is the second child he has outlived.
That's so sad.
He lost a little girl and then his son, and he became a recluse for the remainder of his life.
Oh my god.
Like, no one ever saw him, except his wife, Carrie, number 2.
Carrie, number 2.
To honor his son's memory, he donated land that he owned in Dana Point, California, which became Doheny State Beach.
Yeah, I've surfed there.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then he donated $1.1 million in 1932 to the University of Southern California to build the Edward L. Doheny Jr. Memorial Library.
Which, if you're a USC student or alumni, then you know, right?
We both went to USC, to the University of Southern California. We call it USC. And Doheny Library is beautiful. It's like a big focal point on campus.
Right. It's one of like the main buildings, you could say, and it's massive.
It's massive.
Beautiful,
it's
massive.
Gorgeous. And I didn't know until I was doing this research that it was a memorial library. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that either. I just thought it was named after Doheny just because he's rich.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I mean,
You're
to
rich.
be honest, like, I love USC, but that type of mentality tracks.
I know, but it's so sad. Like, he donated a ton of money after this, like, everywhere. Like, remember how I said a big part of his company was in Tamaulipas, Mexico?
Yeah.
Or in Tampico specifically?
Mm-hmm.
He, like, at that time there was, like, there had been the Mexican Revolution, the, like, internal
Right.
struggles, and
right around that time.
yeah, and the communities were really affected. He, like, donated a ton of money for, like, infrastructure for Tampico and for the church and things like that there. And his wife seems to have been on the same page. She created, like, tons of funds and scholarships and donated jewelry and art and things like that. So at the end of their lives, they were in this very giving place.
Yeah.
Edward Doheny died at his Beverly Hills home on September 8th, 1935, of natural causes, and this was a month after his 79th birthday. And that is the mystery of the Greystone Mansion deaths of Ned Doheny and Hugh Plunkett.
Aww. I want to, like, clap, but also, like, that
But
is
not
sad.
clap.
But not clap, yeah.
It's typically referred to as the Greystone murders, and that's what I had initially called this, but then I was like, we don't know if it's, like, we know that there's murder, but we don't know who murdered who.
Right, or if it was, like, one of them was suicide, or,
Yes,
like...
exactly. So these deaths are mysterious, so that's what I wanted to call it.
It's true.
My sources were amazing for this episode. There is an LA Times article called The Sensational Society Killings That Rocked LA, Still a Mystery 90 Years Later. GreystoneMansion.org has actually some stuff about this as well on their About section of the page. You can learn so much about the mansion and, like, how it runs today as well. NewYorkSocialDiary.com and Vintage Noir, that website, they have an article called The Tragedy of Greystone.
It is a tragedy. That's actually a really good term for it.
Yeah, it's really sad because any, like, configuration of these two deaths, what a sad way for best friends to go.
Yeah, like, no matter what, it's tragic.
Like, that have been in each other's lives, supporting each other since they were little boys. Like, that is so sad. And for those kids, Doheny's, I don't know if Hugh Plunkett had a family, but for Ned's kids, like, to lose their dad, so sad. Apparently his wife remarried, like, another rich businessman not too long after. But I didn't look more into that.
Yeah, the story's kind of done at that point.
So, did you like this
I
episode?
did, slightly depressing, but, it was actually, it was really good. I really like this one. I mean, to be fair, it's less depressing than last week's episode, so.
Yeah, there you go. We're going up.
We're going up. And a little bit spookier and as opposed to just outright, like, tragic and just horrifying.
Ooh, I just had an idea.
Yes.
Since it's, like, allegedly supposed to get cooler here.
In Los Angeles. Who knows if that'll ever happen?
We should definitely go to Greystone together. I don't think we've ever done that.
No, we haven't. And we'll take pictures and show it to you guys.
On our Instagram, at History for Weirdos.
And that's a perfect plug. And if you haven't followed us there, please do so. That's where we post all of our,
comings and goings,
exactly.
All the updates, all the images from episodes.
Yes. You can see that, and any announcements that we have too, it's always on the Instagram. So please follow us there if you haven't already done so. And for those who have, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And don't be shy, share your favorite episode on your Instagram stories or with a friend or anything like that, because that helps the podcast grow. And we've said this so many times, but we really appreciate this community. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
And guys, I know you message us a lot and write a lot of comments. Sometimes we don't respond, but I guarantee you we've seen them. It's just we both have we're full-time
It's
jobs,
not
so.
out of a lack of love.
It's not, it's just lack of time.
It's being
and energy.
Scattered.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will get to messages and comments little by little because it makes our day. So thank you for leaving those.
Thank you, guys.
And that is it for this week.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and until next time, guys.
Thanks, weirdos.
Adios.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.